President of the United States now not celebrating Groundhog Day, but still reeling from the Grammy Awards, having taken to Truth Social to declare the Grammy Awards the worst, virtually unwatchable, he says. CBS is lucky not to have this garbage litter their airwaves any longer. That was the last one last night, CBS. The host, he says, Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the low ratings Academy Awards. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein Island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Epstein Island, nor anywhere close. And until tonight's false and defamatory statement, I've never been accused of being there. So he's going to sue him. I'm just going to fast forward to the punchline here. Looks like he says, I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of an MC and suing him for plenty. He says, ask little George Slopadopoulos and others how that all worked out. We're not going to do our whole panel on this, but I am curious what happens when pop culture turns against an elected official. And it's not all pop culture, but you certainly saw it on display last night at the Grammys, and you probably shouldn't be surprised. Ice out is what everyone was saying, right? You saw all the pins on the red carpet. The Bad Bunny, whomever it was talking. Billie Eilish had something to say about this administration or ICE enforcement or whatever. And it was on Front Street. It's one thing to have the cold open on SNL every Saturday. This was a major network broadcast, and it sounds like the president watched all of it. Bloomberg Politics contributors Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano join on this and more. Jeannie is our Democratic analyst and democracy visiting fellow at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center. Rick Davis, the man with the snowblower, our Republican strategist and partner at Stone Court Capital. I hope you both survive, and this has been one heck of a winter, and I guess we got through another weekend. Jeannie, I don't know if you watched the awards last night. Rick, I don't know if you're a Grammys guy, but I'll always remember that celebrity ad that you guys put together on the McCain campaign. Does it matter? Does it help or hurt Donald Trump to have the Grammys turn against him?
Well, the Grammys represent kind of a populist thing, right? It's what normal people watch. And they're not really political. They're not tuning in to see some kind of a campaign ad. They're tuning in to be entertained. And so when entertainment crosses that blood-brain barrier to, political commentary, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, because it's so, a big news item, you can't tune on to anything without hearing about what's going on in Minneapolis, the government shutdown because of ICE. It's everywhere. So it doesn't surprise me that the Grammys would bust into that act and that these actors, all of whom have their own point of view, would weigh in. Myself, I think, actors in Hollywood should stay on the West Coast. And, most voters aren't influenced by them, but the Democratic Party is. And so sometimes it's a plus because we're talking about it today and it's driving that narrative.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a big flop.
Well, that's interesting, Jeannie. You know that he wanted to have an alternate sort of halftime show for the Super Bowl because Bad Bunny is going to be doing that. He's not going to be there, but he'll certainly be watching that as well. How much of a liability or not is this for Donald Trump? You could say it helps him because maybe the base loves this.
Joe, I was going to test you by asking you for Bad Bunny's real name, but I won't do that. I'm certainly not going to do it to Rick. I know better than that. It's going to be a whole week of Bad Bunny, right? We've got him last night at the Grammys, and then we're going right into the Super Bowl. The big question is, what does he do with the Super Bowl, if anything? And I think it's fascinating what a switch the NFL has taken from the Colin Kaepernick days to now booking Bad Bunny, of course. So it's going to be all Bad Bunny this week, in addition to Punxsutawney Phil. But you know why this matters? Because Donald Trump can't keep his eyes off of it. I think the most fascinating thing to me was the man is almost 80 years old. I'm impressed he's up at 1 a.m. finishing the Grammys and messaging about it. I was very impressed by that. And he's got a big problem on his hands. It's the ice out and pins. And, these are very, very popular singers and acts that are there from around the world. And they have a huge, huge megaphone. He knows that. And the messages they are sending are echoing what we are seeing in places like Texas over the weekend at the very much quieter polls, where people are saying you overreached on immigration, this is not who we are, ice out essentially. So it's a problem for Donald Trump, and we know it. And since it's Groundhog Day, his only sort of message was, hey, I'll just sue, which is what he usually does.
He's going to sue, indeed. I guess this alternate halftime show is happening. We're just not sure who's going to be there, right? They announced this in the latest week. The broadcast is going to air on the Charlie Kirk Show channel. It's going to be on X and Rumble, and then it'll be on Real America's Voice, a couple of other Trinity Broadcasting Network, Charge. I don't know half of these. The New Tang Dynasty. I'm sorry, I'm lost. One America News I have heard of. There is speculation that Nicki Minaj shows up, but it's unclear exactly who's going to perform at this. Rick, is this time well spent for Turning Point or for the MAGA movement to provide an alternate?
First of all, BAMO, Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. I want credit for that. It's just not bad
Nice job.
to me.
You're something, man.
The reality
Great
is
American.
this is alternate programming, and it's been used a lot over the years. It should not surprise anybody. Myself, I'm not watching halftime shows. I'm getting an extra layer of sauce on my chicken wings. So I mean, for me, it's not that important. But I get it, right? I mean, there is a culture clash in entertainment too, and so I think it's actually smart on the part of the president and his allies to platform this, because they can communicate directly without any network interference to hundreds of millions of people, not just in the United States, but around the world, who share his ideology. And that's the programming he's going to dish out. The reality is, people we know, folks who, vote every day, those who watch the Super Bowl likely will watch the Super Bowl show. If not, just because now they're kind of curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, Bad Bunny had a big night, and now he's going to have a big weekend. So you can't imagine a better run-up for the NFL to have this kind of attention on their halftime entertainment.
How true. The ratings will be huge. Jeannie, I don't know if you saw what's happening at the Kennedy Center, but this, of course, is a place that enjoys a bit of pop culture and more than just pop culture, as the most important cultural landmark in the city of Washington. And the president's recently put his name on it, which has been obviously something that has been controversial. He dispatched the board. He made himself the chairman. Life's real different at the Kennedy Center, we can admit. But I'm just curious about this post he put. He's closing it. You might have heard he's closing the Kennedy Center for 2 years. Shock, horror. Congress is supposed to run this. They have no say in it. He didn't consult anybody. It's a big story in Washington today. You've already heard all that, though. Jeannie, I want you to read the post with me and start looking down more deeper into the post beyond the headline. He says, I have determined that the Trump Kennedy Center, if temporarily closed for construction, revitalization, and complete rebuilding, can be without question the finest performing arts facility of its kind anywhere in the world. Complete rebuilding. This is not we're closing the Kennedy Center for 2 years to repaint the walls. He's going to do to the Kennedy Center, it sounds to me like what happened to the East Wing. They're going to knock it down. Am I wrong?
Joe, there's nothing I like better than reading Truth Social posts with you. So thank you. It's a great way to start Monday. Yeah, I think, so many of us heard this announcement, and apparently, by the way, the people who work there learned about it the way we did on Truth Social, that it was closing for 2 years. And many of us assumed that was because they're having so much difficulty booking acts, and the people who are booked going forward, so many of them and audience members have pulled out of it. So we assumed it was that, and I think there's still truth to that. But now, to your point, you read that closely, and the question is he going to pull an East Wing renovation style sort of overhaul of the Kennedy Center? Remember, before in the fall, he was saying it doesn't need to close. We'll be able to keep it open, and we'll be able to have all the acts in and do what I want to do. But now he's going to change the whole thing. So I think what we're seeing here is a typical Donald Trump. He's trying to make, lemonade out of lemons, because they have lost almost every act that was coming there in the next few years.
Ticket sales said to be down 50% since the changes were made, though. Rick, complete rebuilding. Imagine the view from the Georgetown waterfront. Are they going to raise the Kennedy Center?
They might. Look, this was all debated in the spring when the big, beautiful bill was going through passage, $256 million. Many, many times the normal budget that the Kennedy Center get was in the bill for repairs and the fact that now we're learning maybe a rebuild. It's certainly a lot of money. It's taxpayer money. Nobody ever looked at plans. Nobody ever got clearances. Nobody even knew what it was for when they were voting for it on the big, beautiful bill, which is a true indictment of Congress for not asking the simple question, what's all this money going for? But at the end of the day, now it's going to be up to Trump to decide. And I think, it'll fall along the lines of what's good for the city versus, what Donald Trump wants to do. The one thing I can probably confidently say, there'll be plenty of gold gilt in that plan that'll go into the new Kennedy Center.
God knows that's got to be true. I can just imagine the skyline of cranes along the Potomac River. We didn't even get to Arc de Trump. They're going to be building that at the same time on the other side of the Potomac. So much to look forward to on the skyline here in Washington. That thing they said is going to be 250 feet tall, the Arc. So much more in our second hour. The panel stays with us. Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano. We're going to talk as well with the newest member of Congress on his way to being sworn in. This is Bloomberg.